Welcome, everyone. I'm Sarah Joy Marsh, the author of Hunger, Hope, and Healing. I'm also a yoga therapist and the guide for the program Hunger, Hope, and Healing, a yoga approach to recovering your relationship with your body and food. And today's practice is going to focus on how we balance the doshas, particularly this dosha called Vata dosha. Vata dosha is the dosha primarily responsible for when we feel anxious, ungrounded, overwhelmed, and this feeling that we have to get things under control, like it's just sort of coming apart at the seams. Vata dosha is comprised of the elements of air and ether, and so it's the lightest and most mobile of the doshas. It can act like a dragonfly flitting from one thing to the next. And if our Vata dosha has gone out of balance, which it is prone to doing, not just for us, but for everyone, it can cause disruption in the other doshas too. And those are called Pitta and Kappa dosha. So we'll do this practice looking at how do we help the Vata dosha to come back home. Its home base is in the seat of the pelvis, which means having a relationship with the abdomen, the stomach, the pelvis, this part of the body that we can struggle so much with, particularly in Hunger, Hope, and Healing, where we've learned to disconnect from our bodies. We've also learned to disconnect from our digestion and just from the basic sense of like inhabiting or embodying the body itself. So it can be difficult, but it's so beneficial to know where our home base is. It's worth the difficulty or the apprehension of coming into the body. Now, I certainly had my apprehensions and my fears about coming into my body when I was in my eating disorder years. It seemed I did better living outside of my body, except that I didn't. So I have had this fear or terror or apprehension about coming back into my body. And now, with decades of yoga practice and decades of recovery, it is a place I always turn to as a resource. So I'd like to be able to give that to you as well. So please take a comfortable seat. You can rest your hands in your lap and let your eyes close. And as you begin to find your way into the present moment, you can do like a little cross-check, my teacher sometimes says, as if you were an airplane pilot. You're going to cross-check a few things like, you are right here in the present. You're not now driving a car. You're right here in the present. You aren't now composing an email. You are right here in the present. We are not reviewing the past, nor are we planning the future. So invite the part of your mind that dashes from thing to thing like a dragonfly. Invite that part of your mind to come in and down. And you can make contact with this downward flow of energy first by noticing where you're connected to the ground beneath you. Just keep it simple. You can notice your sitting bones, the thighs and knees, which parts of your shins are touching the ground, which parts of your feet. In my case, it's the tops of my feet that are touching the ground. As you make an effort to land there in these sensations, you may have to make that effort gently and consistently, particularly if the Vata nature of the mind wants to keep pulling you up and out into distraction or anxiety. It can be helpful to breathe into the sensations that you're connecting to, so your mind and your breath are sharing one destination. In fact, you might choose one of the sensations of your hips, ankles, feet touching the ground. Just one localized sensation to breathe into. Invite the breath to get a little bit deeper, a little slower, a little longer, and also a little bit smoother. And with appreciation for your efforts to commit to your yoga practice and to come into your body, your efforts to show up here, please bring your hands to your heart. And you may bow your head to your heart. And release both hands and open your eyes as you're ready to. So what happens in Ayurveda and yoga with these magical things called the doshas, there are 3 doshas. Vata dosha pulls us up and out. Pitta dosha gives us this feeling of like a drive, sometimes an out of balance drive. It's like motivation amplified. And that can also pull us away from home. And then Kappa dosha, which is comprised of earth and water, it suffers. So Vata is air and ether, it pulls us up and out. Pitta is fire and water, it makes us kind of feel like a steam engine. We got to get things done. And sometimes at our own expense. And then the Kappa dosha, made of earth and water, we can feel really disconnected from the earth. We don't feel very grounded. And yet at the same time, because Vata and Pitta are out of balance, we're actually accumulating a really unhelpful residue of Kapha dosha, like unexpressed emotions, unidentified longings, unrecognized needs. And then also the food that we may have been eating to help with the emotions, the needs, and the longings that we couldn't express, the food we might be using to medicate that or to soothe that, that food doesn't digest that well because we're not actually in our nervous system where it prioritizes digestion. If we're in the Vata up and out or the Pitta drive or the sort of Kapha slump, we aren't in the ventral vagal parasympathetic nervous system that prioritizes digestion. So we eat the food to numb the pain and we can't really digest it effectively. So Kapha dosha can have this unfortunate residue of not just undigested emotions, needs, and longings, and unrecognized feelings and desires, unrecognized hurts that we don't know how to express. Kapha dosha can also have this residue of the undigested food and life experiences. So we're going to do some practices right now to bring Vata dosha back and to help Kapha dosha not feel so stagnant. So just as you're sitting right now, bring your left hand across to your right knee. Take the right hand behind you. Twist to your right. You can look over your right shoulder. And as you're twisting, your body's going to prioritize bringing the breath down past the solar plexus into the abdomen. See if you can go with that by relaxing any unnecessary tension in the abdomen. And that means that you can welcome the breath to come all the way down. And then exhale and rotate back around to face forward. Cross your right hand over your left knee. Walk your left hand around behind you. Twist to your left, look over your left shoulder. And again, your body in this position is going to want to prioritize that the breath can come down, that you're going to use the diaphragm to inhale. What we have to do is kind of relax the habitual tension of the belly and allow the breath to find its way down. Enjoy one more breath cycle. And then exhale and rotate around to face forward. Now, if you're still sitting cross-legged and it's comfortable, go ahead and stay as you are. If you need to switch, and sometimes it's just helpful to switch to have the other leg on the inside or the outside, something like that. And then I'd like you to just come forward directly. So walk your hands forward. You can bow your head, whatever is appropriate, so that you don't feel like you're really rounding the spine all that much. So don't drop your head completely if you have very little forward bend. Think of it as your spine and your torso are coming forward. Your head is an extension of that. Notice the sensations in your hips and your pelvis. Press into your hands and fingers to help root your hips back towards the blanket or the cushion that you're sitting on. And notice again the sensations of your body making contact with the ground. I'm going to ask you now to let the torso kind of rock a little bit side to side. So you'll press into one hand and lean to your left. Press into the other hand, lean to your right. And just notice as you're going side to side that this rhythm should feel like you're getting to know your body and your sensations, but you are not scrutinizing, we're not judging or evaluating. So lean a little bit to the right, and a little bit to the left. And the next time that you're leaning to the right, walk your hands also to the right and stretch out through your left arm as you reach back with your left hip towards the cushion, the blanket, or the floor. As you breathe in, you might notice any sensations of stiffness in your hips or your pelvis or the side of your waist. And again, we're not scrutinizing, we're not evaluating. And even breathe in with some appreciation for your body, whatever those sensations happen to be. And then walk your hands over to the other side. So we'll go to the left, reach out through your right hand particularly, and reach back with your right hip towards the cushion or the floor. Invite yourself to come into your body, really into your seat. And then walk your hands back to center, raise up to your seat, and just take notice how a few minor yoga stretches, how does it make you feel at this time? What greater access do you have to dropping into your body or your pelvis, and also into the present moment? Now place your left hand on the floor to your left or on a block if the floor is too far away. Raise your right arm up and side bend to your left. Now, as you side bend to the left, keep your right hip grounded. So that sense of rooting down and even your breath and your mind going down is really essential. It might feel good to reach up, and that's wonderful, but keep your right hip grounded so you know where your home base is right now. And as you're side bending to your right, press into your left hand for stability. Rotate your chest and your heart and your gaze up to the right, past your arm, towards the ceiling. And then keep your side bend. As you inhale, open your right arm and gaze down towards the floor. Wrap your right arm around the small of your back and notice the right side of your neck as you keep your side bend. And then inhale, reach your right arm out to the right and use that to guide yourself back up to sitting. And then we're going to go the other way. So place your right hand on the floor to your right. Keep the left hip grounded. Raise your left arm up. Reach past your ear. And of course, we do whatever our capacity is at any time. So we will not look like each other, and you will not have to look like me or anybody else in your yoga practice, only resembling you. So rotate your chest and your heart to the left, look up past your left arm. As you're side bending, keep the left hip grounded. Also notice that you're stretching the diaphragm, the primary breathing muscle. And notice any sensations on the left side of the rib cage. And keeping your side bend, open your left arm and gaze down to your right. Wrap your left arm around the small of your back. You might feel the left side of your neck here. And the mind come down into connection with your body, whether that's the sensations in your neck on the left side, the sensations of the breath, or the sensations where you are connected to the ground. And then with an inhale, reach your left arm out and use that reach to pull yourself back up to center. And again, take a simple seat and just notice the influence you're having, like the mental influence, the physical influence, the energetic influence. So these kind of twisting poses help us to bring the Vata dosha back into the pelvis, and it increases our relationship to the healthy form of the Kappa dosha. So we feel more grounded, essentially. So place both feet. You can have the knees bent up. Place your feet hip distance apart in front of you, knees bent. Reach over to hold your shins. And as you inhale, raise your chest and your heart and open your throat. And as you exhale, curl down and in. So you're going to round your spine. Keep your hands out over your knees for support. And then inhale, pull up again. Raise up through your chest and your heart. Open your throat. And exhale, curl down. And use the exhale to curl down like you're squeezing a sponge. Squeeze the breath out. And then inhale, raise your chest and heart forward and up. And exhale to curl down. We're going to do it twice more. And if your body, for any reason at all, is a little bit stiff in places, or if it's like a little bit painful sensation or feels awkward, by all means, don't scrutinize. And by all means, instead of scrutinizing, give appreciation to your body. Let's do it one more time. Inhale, forward and up. And exhale, curl down, squeeze the breath out. Now, from where you are, bring your right knee in closer. Stretch your left leg straight out on the floor. And wrap your left hand around your right shin. Okay, let's twist to the right. And of course, you can make whatever space you need for your body to be comfortable, including your hip joint or your abdomen or whatever body parts need to be taken care of. As you cross over, we do want a little bit of compression of your thigh against your abdomen. So your breath is going to come into the back hemisphere of your body. So twist to your right, look over your right shoulder. And direct your mind to notice the sensations of you being connected to the ground and the sensations of the breath bringing you home to the ground, bringing you home to your body. Let's do one more breath cycle. And then exhale, come around to face forward. Now stretch your right leg out for a moment and notice that there's a subtle shift of energy moving down your right leg. In a very subtle way, the circulation is going to go back down your leg. So what we're doing there is we're giving Vata dosha a chance to come back home because we're asking the energy to move down. So we're not like all backed up, like a garbage disposal that's like all backed up. So this little runoff with the circulation is also a chance to say, hey, wandering mind, distracted mind, flitting mind, can you come back home? We're making space for that to happen in the pelvis. So bring the left knee up, wrap your right hand around, accommodate your body to be comfortable, but also encourage the compression of your thigh against your abdomen so the breath goes into the back body. Look over your left shoulder. You're breathing in and breathing out. Let the breath again be a place where your mind and your breath together come down. So they're helping you to be more grounded. And you may have to repeatedly resist the wandering mind. That is totally common. So don't scrutinize yourself for that either. And then with an exhale, come around to face forward, lengthen out through your left leg, and notice again this very subtle runoff, the energy being let go. And see if perhaps your mind can come down. It's like getting welcomed back home, like somebody opened the door to the house and you're being invited in. Okay, now cross your ankles. And if you can do this, you lift your hips, place your fingers, raise your hips, and step your feet into Uttanasana. It's like a yogi's way of getting from the floor into the standing forward bend. So place your feet so they're hip distance apart. Also make them parallel. It's absolutely fine to put blocks under your hands if you need them. Press firmly into your feet and toes. And as you exhale, allow your torso to cascade down towards the floor like a waterfall. The Kappa dosha is comprised of earth and water. So allow that water-like element to be in the torso, in your heart, in your mind, cascading down towards the floor. Energize the earth element from your feet into your ankles, your calves, knees and thighs and hips. And now practice exhaling more completely. So you're going to squeeze the belly like squeezing a sponge. And then make a smooth transition into the inhale. Right, so each time you kind of squeeze the breath out, for our purposes this morning, the squeezing of that sponge is like releasing excess residue in the body. So each time you squeeze the breath out, make the next inhale smooth. And then please shift your hands to your hips and rise up to standing. Root down into your heels and toes and come up to stand. Now, when you come up to stand, you had your torso down. So now you're upright. Notice that runoff again, that the circulation is going down your legs more completely. Your heart was down, and then you stood up. So the circulation goes back down the legs more. And that can help us to say again that Vata dosha is being welcomed back home into the pelvis. So let's reach for 2 blocks if you don't now have them from your stash of yoga blocks, which I have only 6 here, but I've got like 20 up in the attic. It's from the yoga studio that I used to have before the COVID pandemic. So place your 2 blocks on the floor like this. Take a wide stance. The wide stance is about the length of one of your legs, right? And then come forward and down. Place your hands on your blocks. Walk your blocks and your hands forward. And as you place your hand out over the blocks, let's make the hands and the feet stable. And then allow your torso, like we did before, to go a little bit side to side. So if you keep your hands and feet stable, but encourage your body, your hips and torso to go side to side, you get this kind of feeling like if you were in a canoe on the water and the canoe is rocking a little bit side to side, that's the feeling you can have in your body right now. Make this a loving and nourishing action. Naturally, there's going to be a lot of sensations that you'll move into, and then you'll also be moving out of those sensations. Since we're going side to side, sensations will rise and sensations will pass. Now, the next time that you come to center, go ahead and pause there, and let's make the legs really stable and centered now, and walk both hands to the right. And particularly stretch out through your left arm as you draw back with your left hip. Breathe in smoothly through your nose and down into your pelvis. And exhale smoothly out through your nose while toning the lower belly. Remind yourself that kind of opening the doorway of the body so you can come back home. Let's walk the hands to the other side, so over to your left. Reach particularly with your right arm as you draw your right hip back towards the wall behind you. And do one more breath cycle here. Keep both feet stable, both legs strong. And then as you exhale, walk your hands to center in the forward position where you started. And then walk your hands back towards your hips, root down through your heels, and please rise up to standing. And as you come up, we're going to go heel, toe, heel, toe to center. And let's again notice that when you come upright, circulation is going to get balanced out. And close your eyes if you like and try to sense your feet on the ground. And circulation going down from your hips to your heel. And this kind of emptying of the residue so we can ask Vata dosha to have its place back in the home of the body. So now we're going to do a yoga pose that kind of combines a couple things. If you're not that familiar with yoga, it won't matter so much if you are or you're not. But if you're not that familiar, you won't see that I'm combining two yoga poses. But if you know yoga pretty well, you'll see that I'm making a combination pose. So we're going to take a wide stance, but I recommend that you watch first before you bend forward. So we take a wide stance. We're going to come back down to about where we were. This time the blocks will go under the hands here. And then we're going to put the feet into a pose called warrior two. So the left heel goes out over here and the right foot turns to the right. And then we'll bend the front knee. This is called the front knee because it's the one that you're bending. And as you do that, the right hand's going to come up against your right knee and you can press your knee open. Okay, so this is to stretch the hips and pelvis and also the upper inner thigh. So come down to your standing wide leg forward bend where it's symmetrical. And then turn your left heel to the left. Hold on, I have a visitor. One of my kittens. You can come. Hi, Nakula. Thank you for coming for class. Yeah, nice to see you. Hi. Well, you brought your friends. Hi, Panda. Come on in. Yeah. Okay, so we're symmetrical to start. Then the left heel goes out. Take the right toes out. Bend your right knee and place your right hand up against your knee. Now, if possible, the right arm is going to be straight. So you're pressing your right thigh open to the right as if you were opening a door. And notice if your breath can come down into your pelvis, into your hips, maybe into the sensations of the right inner thigh. And perhaps your breath can guide you all the way down to your feet, so you once again know where the ground is beneath you. Since Vata dosha likes to kind of flit about, when we stay steady in a yoga pose, we're asking the mind to learn again how to be still, how to be grounded and stable. So let's make this transition smooth as you inhale to rise up to center. Turn the right toes in, place your right hand on your block, then take the right heel slightly out. Turn your left foot to the left. And as you bend your left knee, take your left hand up against your knee to support the inner thigh. Open your left thigh like you're opening a door. You can think of it, in fact, as the doorway to come back in to the home in the seat of your pelvis. Hello. How is your morning? Okay, remain steady for 3 more breath cycles. I should say remain steady and kind. Again, don't scrutinize yourself. Appreciate yourself versus scrutinizing. And come back up to center, make both feet parallel and come down to the forward bend. You can put the blocks aside if you don't need them. Of course, use them if you do need them. Now notice any greater capacity you have for a deeper breath down low in the pelvis. And then raise both hands to your hips, press down into your heels, and again, rise up to standing. And let's go heel, toe, back to center. Find your place where you're standing in your footprints. Like, you're standing in your sense of groundedness or even personal power. So this element in Ayurveda, the Vata dosha, it is kind of slippery insofar as it is the most mobile and it wanders away from home the most easily. And we then end up contributing to that pattern or that habit of mental distractibility, flitting about. We've contributed to the pattern of wanting instant gratification or instant relief. So we have to kind of counter that mental habit in order to regain our health and our sense of embodiment. So whenever the mind wanders, we just kindly bring it back. We don't judge it or scrutinize it for going, but we kindly bring it back, knowing that wherever the mind is wandering to, we could check that out later. But we're in yoga class, so we're practicing a skill, like the skill of mindfulness, right? So let's take these 2 blocks and come down to the floor, please. Come down to kneeling. Kneeling is not everyone's favorite position, but it is a helpful thing to be able to do for your whole life. Like even as we're aging, if we're having grandkids or pets or puppies or kittens, being able to kneel is helpful. But kneeling is also helpful in yoga. This is called Vajrasana. It's a pose where we sit. In fact, it's called the power pose, Vajrasana. It means thunderbolt pose. So for a few moments, when you come down to kneel, place your hands on your knees like this. Close your eyes and picture yourself getting more grounded and remaining more grounded during the course of this practice and then in the course of the day. Okay, now we're going to use the 2 blocks in a sequence involving very familiar yoga poses. Maybe you did them in gym class in middle school: cat pose and cow pose, and then child's pose. So the practice here is going to be to undulate the spine, and really important for Vata dosha, we use the child's pose to squeeze out the lower belly and to say to Vata dosha, hey, come back here, like, hey, dragonfly, come back home. So we're going to put the 2 blocks at the top of the yoga mat. In this case, I'm going to put mine to my right. Place your hands so they're shoulder width apart. As you inhale, press down into your arms and hands and round your back into cat pose. Then as you exhale, lift your sitting bones and move the spine through into cow pose. Open your chest and your heart and your throat. And then inhale again to the cat pose. Start from your sitting bones for the movement into cat pose. And begin from your sitting bones for the movement into cow pose. We're going to continue for about 4 more breath cycles, and then we'll add the child's pose in. So if you've got any kind of stiffness in the spine for any reason, I mean, maybe you've been kind of sedentary, or you've been ill, or you had a long plane ride from India back to the US. So whatever it is that might be causing stiffness in the body, I want you to respond with appreciation and not with scrutiny. We're going to start adding in the child's pose. So inhale to cat pose. And then exhale, reach back to child's pose. Squeeze the breath out using your lower belly muscles. Now inhale, roll up to cat pose. Exhale to the cow pose. Inhale to cat pose. Exhale to child's pose. Squeeze the breath out. Let's do it again. Inhale, cat pose. Exhale, cow pose. Inhale to cat pose. And exhale to child's pose. And we're going to do this one more time. So at your own body's pace, of course, always at your own pace. Inhale to cat. Cow pose. Cat pose. And child's pose. And for this child's pose, when you walk back into child's pose here, I'm going to ask you then to bring your 2 blocks close like this. Put 1 block on the flat setting and the other block on the medium setting. Reach for your bolster or your blankets and place them on top like this. And then what we want to do is come up so that when you come over the bolster, you do have the bolster making some pressure against the abdomen. So for some of us, it's going to be more helpful to put the block on the medium setting, on the tall setting, like that. So you can vary it. The reason that there's a space between the 2 blocks is that your arms go in here. And when you come down, turn your head to the right to start. And encourage your body to relax around the support of the bolster. So we're asking Vata dosha to come back home into the body. Can your mind drop down out of the windy nature of the sky and be in the more grounded nature of the earth? My cat is disturbing the computer. Just a moment. No, honey. It's not okay. All right, let me go that way. Okay, all good. It would be a terrible fright to him if he knocked everything over. It would be disruptive to us, but very scary for him. We've had the head turned to the right. Now go ahead and turn your head to your left so your neck gets a stretch on both sides. In a pose like this, we're basically asking for the body to get more still and for the mind to know that it can come in to the body. Panda? Panda kitty? Hi, Nakula. Yeah, hi, honey. So allow your mind to rest in such a way as if a thought about the future comes up, you can set it aside and come back into your body right here in the present moment. This is mental training, not just a physical yoga practice. Now bring your head back to center. Place your hands on the floor. And then press yourself up to kneeling, back to the pose we call Vajrasana. So we'll put the The knees go closer together. Place your palms face down on your lap. And try to sense the groundedness of, being in your power, being in your center. Okay, now we're going to use the 2 blocks are going to be nearby, near enough that you can reach them. And I'm going to ask you to put your bolster across your mat horizontally like this. With my glasses out of the way. So we're going to be putting the hips on the bolster, and then you lie down on your back. So to get that sense that your hips are supported, if you kneel next to your bolster and then place your hips on the bolster and come to lying on your back, that is one way to get into position. And then the bolster is already under the back of the pelvis. You can untie any hair clips that you're using. Like I had one, it's a little bit pokey on the floor. So go ahead and untie that. And then bring the knees towards your chest. Since your hips are elevated, it's easier to bring the knees towards the chest. And this is an important pose. It's a very simple yoga pose, but it's an important one for digestion, for back pain, for helping bring Vata dosha back into the pelvis, because we're going to go like this. On the inhale, the knees move away and the arms can straighten. On the exhale, squeeze your knees towards your chest and squeeze the breath out. Inhale, slowly straighten. And exhale, bend your knees, squeeze the breath out. And see if you can practice keeping your mind right here in the present. These are not complicated yoga poses. And if you're accustomed to a more fast-paced yoga practice, and if that quiets your mind, it's understandable that that can work for you. But we also want to be able to slow down the nervous system and encourage the mind to come into the body at this pace. Exhale, squeeze the knees towards your chest. Do this twice more. Inhale, knees go away, making space for the breath. Exhale, squeeze in. Let yourself really be here in the present moment. And then touch both feet to the floor. Notice that your pelvis is a little bit elevated. We've got 1 block to either side of the bolster. So you may need only 1, you may prefer to have 2. We're going to be doing a twisting pose where you go like this. The knees come up to what we call a 90-90 position. And as you're going to come down to the side, you want to make full use of the bolster and the blocks. So one way to do that is to use the bolster like a typewriter bar. We pick up the hips, we move the bolster down, and then you have all this space on the bolster to bring your legs down to the right. And I put my block here, so my shins are going to land on the block. Take your left hand up on your knees and twist to your left with the upper torso. And then see to what extent you can actually welcome the breath to come down into your pelvis. Like you're encouraging it. In fact, can we move to savoring that sensation? And with your next inhale, raise both knees up to center. Touch your feet down to the floor. Lift your hips and move your typewriter bar, your bolster, to the other side. And then bring your knees up to this 90-90 position. As you come down to your left, you can prepare 1 block or 2 blocks, depending on what you need, so that your twist is supported and the hips are just gently elevated. Rotate from your lower belly, mid-torso, and heart to your right. It's okay to close your eyes and really try to sense that you're coming back inside. And again, you might have a variety of sensations that tell you that your body really needs some care, or it's been a time you've been away from home, as it were, away from the home of the body. So without scrutinizing, we really come in more with the attitude of appreciation. And then with an inhalation, raise your knees and your head up to center. Touch your feet down flat to the floor. And let's notice now when you let go of the poses and you're resting right here, where does your breath move in your torso? Now it's possible that you're sensing the breath in the pelvis, that it's actually able to come there. So now let's take the right knee and bring it up towards your chest. Stretch the left leg out straight. The hips are a little bit elevated, so you might be sensing your left psoas muscle, right? So as you come in, squeeze your right thigh to your chest. And notice that in this position, again, we're going to be benefiting the digestive system, not just the psoas muscle, but also digestion. So when you squeeze your right knee to your chest, we're asking for a little massage for the ascending colon. Digestion is really key in digesting not only food, but also those emotions and longings and the needs that we discover as our life kind of prompts us to know ourselves better. Okay, so let's exhale, bring the left knee up to meet the right knee. So now when you do both knees, you are addressing the transverse colon. And hug the knees towards your shoulders. As the breath comes down, you're going to be massaging the organs in the abdomen. You're also putting a little pressure again on the transverse colon. And then keeping your left knee in, take the right leg out straight. You might have the joy of noticing your right psoas muscle, but also notice that we're going to be now massaging the descending colon. Healthy digestion is really key in Ayurveda. It is the central focus, the fulcrum of our health depends upon healthy digestion. And so that's not just the system of digestion and the musculoskeletal structure of digestion. It's also, of course, what we're doing with our minds and our nervous system and how we are in relationship with our body and food. What we do when we're eating, like driving and eating, is not good for digestion. Watching TV and eating is not good for digestion. All these things, you know. Now with your next exhale, place your left foot flat on the floor, bend the right knee, and place both feet again. And notice when you let go, where does the breath end up being in the torso? And then lift your hips and scooch the bolster out from under. Please roll to your side. And come up to sit for one more yoga practice that's really about asking the Vata dosha to come back home. So you're going to take a seat on your bolster or your blanket if you like to use them. You don't need to use it. And then bring your left leg in, left foot in, right leg out. I'm just going to tie up my hair because it's distracting. But of course, lying down on a hair clip is painful. Okay. So this kind of position here, when we do seated forward bends, we're asking for the Kappa dosha to be more nourishing, and we're asking for the Vata dosha to come home again. So we're doing a seated forward bend. That means that the front side of the body, what we call the animal body, this nervous system body, is not in a kind of freeze submit, but it's also not in a fight flight mode. It's going to be in an inward downward homecoming mode. So rotate your torso towards your right leg. If necessary, you can use your blocks for this pose. And then walk out to your right. Stretch the left arm particularly towards your right foot. And keep reaching your left heel back, left hip back and down. Now, depending on your flexibility and the yoga props that you have, if you're quite comfortable in a pose like this, and the blocks would be the right height, you could put a block where your head goes. Like I just showed for myself, I've got the block on the tall setting for my forehead, and then the other hand, left hand, reaches out in the pose. You could, of course, use 2 blocks or 3 blocks, 4 blocks. You could use your dog if they're stable and willing. And with an inhalation, raise your torso, slide your left hand back, bring the right leg in to your seat. Notice how things feel. And then take your left leg out to your left. I'm just reaching for my water glass in front of me. So right leg in, left leg out. Raise up through the torso. You can prepare your blocks to come with you if you like. And we're going to be walking out over the left leg. So you can slide your right hand out to the right. To the left, excuse me. And if, again, it's the appropriate height for you, you can put a block for your head. Remind yourself that you're in mental training. This is not just a physical yoga practice. We are adjusting or addressing the doshas, but we also must work with the mind. So encourage your mind to come down into noticing right here in the present moment. These are the sensations of the ground. And this pose is particularly helpful for nourishing the Kappa dosha and therefore grounding the Vata dosha and kind of cooling off or, lowering the flame on the Pitta dosha. And then with an inhale, please raise your torso back up from where you've been. And one more time, bring the left leg in and notice when you come back to your seat, what is it like to arrive back here? Now we do something really important, really essential for the Vata dosha. We're going to have Shavasana practice. So one thing I'll recommend is that you're going to cover up with a blanket, and this bolster can go under your knees. Now, I happen to have the benefit of lots of yoga blankets, but I also have a weighted blanket, and that looks like this. So a weighted blanket, you can purchase, I think this one is from Luxom, something like that. A weighted blanket, this one weighs about 10 pounds. And that's really helpful for the Vata dosha because it's very grounding to have the weight of the blanket. Of course, you may not always have a weighted blanket, so a regular blanket can work, and you can also add a pet, a dog, a cat that's appropriate, or a sandbag. You can also add that. So what we're going to do is the bolster goes under the knees. And the blanket is to keep warm, but in the case of a weighted blanket, it's also that you're warm, and then it's kind of grounding to have it. So you can take the arms out into a T shape, or sometimes I like to put my hands so that there's one hand on the heart and one hand on the belly. It's kind of an acknowledgement of appreciation. And then you're welcome to also, you could use your eye pillow. That's very grounding for the Vata dosha because it helps the eyes to be more still. And then bring your focus in your body. And you're going to be chaperoning yourself to rest, not to think and plan, but to rest. And notice the back of your heels against the ground, like the most distant point from your head, the back of your heels. And encourage your mind to kind of rest there on the delicate sensation of the back of your heels touching the ground. It's not a dynamic sensation. It's not particularly entertaining, but it's a place to practice the quiet art of mindfulness. Now, of course, your mind is going to become distracted. Don't do a lot to try to bring it back. Like, don't amplify the breath or make the heels press into the ground further. The doing is more like chaperoning your mind to come back to the delicacy of the present moment. We're training your mind. And if it's been acting like a dragonfly, it's going to need some delicate training. When you're noticing sensation, you can resist the sort of constant broadcast of commentary about your life or your sensations. Just notice the raw experience of sensation, the heels touching the ground. As you keep chaperoning your mind, don't count the numbers of times you wander away. Appreciate the numbers of times that you're returning. As you're resting and giving your mind an opportunity for stillness, you might start incorporating a little mantra so that you have something to carry with you during the day. Something like present moment, simple moment. Now, with deep appreciation for your efforts, I'd like you to slowly wiggle your toes, wiggle your fingers. Enjoy a little deeper breath in the belly. And bend one knee at a time. Roll to your side. Use your hands to press back up to sitting. And then we will come one more time onto the seat, whatever your seat is made of. In my case, it's a bolster. Sometimes it's a folded blanket. Sometimes it's just a rolled up yoga mat. I just traveled to India and back. I did not take yoga props with me. I just took a travel mat. So sometimes you just roll that up and put it under your hips for your meditation, wherever you happen to be. So come to your seat and let's take notice if you feel any bit more connected or at home in your body. And do your best to relax your mind, especially the mind that does the flitting about, becomes anxious and hypervigilant. And sense the strength of yourself inside, what I sometimes call the inner lighthouse self. As you sense that strength and stability, imagine yourself being able to bring that quality to whatever events arise for you today, that you will be able to meet them with grace and wisdom, discernment. And you may raise your hands to your heart. Thank you very much for sharing your practice. I wish you all the best on the day to come. Namaste. And of course, for anyone who's watching this as a video later, you can leave questions and comments below the video, and I'll come back to what those are and give you some support as needed. And it's also very helpful if you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Enjoy your day.